Get ready to be amazed. Get ready to be transformed. Get ready to believe it is possible. You're entering the growth zone on the Guts and Glory Show with your host, Louise Scott.
Hey guys, welcome to the Guts and Glory Show. I'm your host, Luis, and I am excited to have a guest on today. And as you know, this show is dedicated to helping you learn just a little bit more so you can be bigger and better than you were before. And our guest today, Alex Morgan. And Alex is an author and certified, check it out, hypnosis trainer. And I've never had a guest like this before, so I'm really excited to discuss a little bit about the hypnosis thing, because I was a little queasy about it when I first heard about it. But I know the mind is super, super powerful. Alex, thanks for being on the show.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, Luis. I'm really excited to talk about all of this. It's really exciting for me as well.
Well, I'm pumped because, you know, I have a mindset coach. And one of the things that we really focus on is this idea of unlocking these subconscious barriers that are in our mind and the things that really prevent us from achieving greater levels. But before we get into that, I'm just curious, like, what made you get into hypnosis training and what made you get into this mindset arena?
So back in 2017, I got out of a failed relationship and I was going through some financial trouble. I actually went through a bankruptcy at the time. And I realized that it was all my responsibility that all these things happened. So I was looking for something where I was like, okay, I've taken responsibility. However, I still feel all these negative emotions. I'm scared, I'm anxious, I'm disappointed in myself. So what can I kind of do to, change how I feel and change how I see things in the future? So I went onto Facebook and I basically typed in like hypnosis trainer, NLP trainer. I found someone, reached out, and they were like, hey, it was August, and they were like, hey, what are you doing in January? I was like, nothing. And they're like, all right, then come to our training. And that was pretty much it. So I just kind of hit the ground running. And, that's why I love it so much, is because I know that it helped me. So as long as people are excited about it and they want to change, it'll work and they can really, truly achieve anything that they want.
It's interesting that you talked about this. I had to take responsibility that everything was my fault, or I don't know if you said my fault, but like at least it was my responsibility. And I do find a lot of victimhood mentality when it comes to things that happen in our lives. How did hypnosis help you overcome that? What did it do?
Well, I realized one of the first things I always teach in my trainings is like cause and effect. So you can either make excuses and be at effect and be pointing the finger literally at your mom, your dad, your brother, your boss, the government, whoever. And you could point the finger and you can give your personal power to someone else, which sounds so silly. Or you can choose to be a cause and you could choose to, get results. So I always tell people the first day, for the rest of this training or however long you want to play this game. Any time that you find your mind wandering and making an excuse or wanting to blame another person, you need to flip it really quick, get over to the side of cause, because that's where you take back your personal power. You have empowerment and you can get results. So after a few weeks of playing this game, that's pretty much it. You're used to then only going for results. Yes, people go through, peaks and valleys and things like that. However, you can still have your mind right during these, peaks and valleys and always go for results instead of making excuses. Or you can say reasons for why you're not getting what you want. So there's no point in doing that when you have other choices, in my opinion.
Now, what about the situation? Because I've had, as a consultant myself, I work with clients, and I've had people who go through very devastating things from a business perspective. Maybe they have a bunch of employees leave, or they have an employee who tries to sabotage their business, or maybe the leads are not coming in. They're not getting the types of clients. How does a person switch their mindset in that environment where it does feel like there's nothing that I've done wrong to cause that? What is the mechanism for switching and having the right perspective?
That's a really good question. So I would say that a lot of our problems are things that do happen, whether or not there are fault or not, in some way or another. They're kind of a projection of possibly what we're doing, what we may be thinking or seeing. It's like we're seeing our whole life as a mirror outside of us. So if these things are happening, and we also have, let's say, like negative feelings about it, then we can be pretty sure that it is a projection of us. If it's happening and we're like, hey, you know what? Screw it. I got to take care of this. I'm digging deep. I'm doing this. Then, chances are it's not necessarily a projection, but we also need to take action. So we need to be a lot of people, they need to be consciously aware of, is this something that we maybe subconsciously or unconsciously created with our thoughts, our emotions, or in all of our past limiting beliefs and programs? Or is it something that other people are doing? And either way, as the leader of the organization or the boss, whatever you want to say, we need to take care of it either way. So I would say that's one thing to focus on, is realizing what you can do. And did that come from you? Or, either way, you just got to buckle down and do it.
So it sounds like maybe you're not the cause of your employees leaving. Maybe you're not the cause of you losing your pipeline of clients, but something in your subconscious believed that was going to happen to you. And so you created an environment where they would leave. You created an environment where you wouldn't get clients. That's a powerful realization, but also a really hard pill to swallow. So how do we change that? How do we like reprogram ourselves? And because I'm interested in this, right? I've had a pretty decent amount of success in my life, but sometimes I find myself asking, what is the limiting belief that I have that is preventing me from the next level? So how do we reprogram ourselves once we've done this self-discovery to not think that way and to not have those, you said, subconscious and unconscious thoughts? Like, how do we reprogram ourselves?
There's a few different ways, and you touched on limiting beliefs. So, I mean, most people, they're all going to have the same sort of limiting beliefs. I'm not good enough. I don't deserve it. I can't make enough money. So these things, unfortunately, we took on these beliefs from when we're like 0 to 7. We soaked up everything like a sponge. We're a little unconscious mind walking around. So once we realize it, then we think, okay, we can do something about it. The first thing that we need to think, if I'm working with someone, at least when they are saying these things, I'm thinking, okay, are they feeling this like part of the time? Is it a part of them that doesn't believe this? Or is it something that they fully believe all the time that they're not good enough? Because then it'll determine what I'm going to actually do with them. So usually a lot of times we unconsciously find that root cause, that first event, that it doesn't mean that they did something. They could have just picked up on something somebody said. For, let's say, I can't make enough money. It could have been a little child in the living room watching TV and the parents are arguing in the kitchen that they don't have enough money all the time to pay the bills. And unfortunately, now they think this.
Yeah.
So we need to understand, if we believe that all the time, and if we do, we get rid of the limiting belief. If not, it could be a part of us. And the thing is when something is a part of us, it might have different beliefs and values that is driving this specific part, and it has a different behavior. So then we have so much inner conflict. So if we can get rid of either inner conflict or this really ingrained belief, that's the way to do it. And usually we get rid of the root cause of it, and that'll string out all the events like on a Gestalt line. And, we don't have negative feelings about this anymore. And it's really freeing for us to rewrite the story for the future.
So when you talk about that, we get rid of that root cause, what you're saying is you don't get rid of necessarily the memory, you get rid of the emotion attached to that memory. It reminds me of that movie Inside Out, where the emotion attached to the event changed, and it changed the way that she perceived the things that were happening in her life. And that's essentially what you're saying, right? You're going to take this negative emotion and you're going to no longer assign it to that event, which means you're going to be able to move past that subconscious, unconscious belief. Maybe you can work on me here in a sec right now, right? So when I was growing up, my mom used to always say, money doesn't grow on trees. And I interpreted that to mean that it's hard to make money. And I've kind of always had that belief. And now I've become successful, but I feel like I've become successful on the back of just working extremely hard, 14, 15, 16 hours. And the question is, how do I get rid of the mentality that I have to work so hard to make money? Like, work on me. What do I do in that scenario where here I am, I'm about to be 42. And since I was 10 years old, I've heard money doesn't grow on trees. And I really believe it's part of my subconscious. Like, what do I do?
Yeah, it definitely could be. Especially that's the thing. We're so influenced by our parents and everything, which is fantastic because they also taught us so many wonderful things as well. And they just didn't realize they were saying certain things to us. So especially as, adults, anyone with children, it's very important how you speak to your child. That's not necessarily answering the question, but that's a good point. The thing is that could basically be a belief as well that like I have to work hard for money or something like this. So we would explore this, or I would usually ask someone in this case because I want to work with the highest level problem there is. So if someone was like, oh, I'm not good at dancing, it's like, okay, well, is that really your belief or is it something much better? Because we can get rid of I'm not good at dancing, or we can get rid of like everything and then dancing and all these other beliefs come out. So I would probably ask like, hey, Luis, how is that a problem for you? And then you think about it and say, well, this, and then we chunk up just a bit higher and see if there's another limiting belief like over that. So once we got rid of that, it would essentially get rid of all the ones that are underneath it. So that's probably one way that would be really effective to work with it. And then I would find out to me, it's never enough just to get rid of the problem. Then we need to find out like, what is it that you truly want now that this is gone? Because you're going to be thinking more clearly. And once you get rid of problems, the thing is the negative emotions, like you said, are attached to them. Those negative emotions are not good for our body. So it's causing other thoughts or stress or whatever it is, depending on the person, anxiety. So once you get rid of those negative emotions, now your mind is clear to be like, hey, I need to fill up my life with all this good stuff now. So what is it that I really want? That would be the kind of the two steps to go about it.
So I could actually have a belief system that is not even, it's not even the root of my problem. It's just like the noticeable symptom of the root of my problem, essentially. This mindset stuff is powerful. It is powerful. I mean, it's just wild. Now, talk to me about somebody that you've worked with that you've been able to help in business, because my listeners tend to be people who are wanting to grow their business. There's somebody listening right now and they're saying, okay, great. I'm going to, get rid of the emotions of my negative belief. And now I'm going to be more confident. How does this help somebody in business? When they start really believing in themselves, in their ability, how does that just bring in money? I mean, what happens there?
Well, I see a lot of people in business that I've worked with, it's not that they have so much a problem with money. It's that they get to like a certain revenue and then it's like they're banging on that door. It's like they're in a box and they don't know how to get out of it and they can't get past it. So if they work on themselves, the easiest way is to do the inner work, and it's a lot easier than people think. And then once they kind of get past that barrier or whatever it is, I don't even necessarily like to think of it like that. I almost like to think of as we're expanding past things, because if we think barrier, challenge, it presupposes that there's tons of resistance. So why can't we tell people, hey, just expand your boundaries on your revenue or something like this? And to people who think positively, they're like, hey, that's pretty cool. Yeah, why not? Because if they think of it as a barrier, it's going to be that much harder. So, I mean, the benefits of that then, especially if they have a team, I mean, people will see them more calm, collected, cool. And if everything is taken care of for the boss, then, the employees and stuff are also going to have a really good time as well. So, I mean, I've worked with a CEO here. I'm in Athens, Greece, and I help this person get past a certain revenue in a month that they were, and then a certain cash flow as well that we were working towards. And once he got past that, to be honest, I've been working with him for a while. He never mentioned it again. It's almost like it's been forgotten because he's like, oh, well, I got the ball rolling on some new stuff. So they start focusing on new things instead. And this is what's really cool once they get past that. However, I think the thing is, we don't want to see it as like resistance. Oh, I can't. Oh, it's like so difficult to do this, when it's like we just need to expand a little instead.
I like that, because I think that a lot of times we view everything as an obstacle, as a barrier, as a challenge. And that within itself has some negative connotation, right? It's like when you talk about the negative resistance, if I see my revenue threshold as a barrier, well, what are the things that are keeping it as a barrier? What's resisting me? And then we go down this rabbit hole instead of saying it's not a barrier. It's just like we need to figure out how to expand our capabilities to actually reach more. Now, for the person out there who is struggling with this negative belief pattern, is hypnosis the only way to really overcome this? Or have you found that there are a multitude of ways, but hypnosis is the way that you train people to do it?
Yeah, so in my opinion, there's tons of ways to do different things. I mean, myself, I've been to different coaches for different things. I've been to psychologists. I've done all kinds of stuff. Way back when I used to do affirmations and all this, I don't necessarily do that anymore. However, I mean, even just doing personal development and taking courses or reading a book, and you find that little thing in a book that has you thinking differently, I mean, that could do something as well. I just found that hypnosis, because we specifically get right into the unconscious mind, that it creates results that last. So essentially, that's what I'm after. I don't want to just get rid of a problem for now. I want to get rid of a problem forever that I could have had for decades. And I want to do it with the least amount of effort as possible. And I believe that when you're working with the mind, if you put the effort into your mind, it's going to make things in your outer reality seem more automatic, natural, easy, and effortless. So yes, many ways. However, my preferred way, I'm biased, of course, I'm trained in hypnosis and I teach it, is this. But I mean, that's just what I think with my experiences and what I've seen clients do.
Well, what I'm hearing you say really is that hypnosis allows for a quicker process, a deeper process, and a more longer lasting process, right? So like if you want to get it done quickly, deeply, and for it to last a long time, then your preferred way is, the hypnosis route. But before we get into kind of what that process looks like, you talked about affirmations, you talked about reading books. And I know that there are people out there who are like, you don't have to read, just take action. You'll overcome everything in your life. But somebody who works in this field, is there truth to just take action and you're going to be fine? Or are there really mental blocks that action doesn't cure? Like, what have you found to be the case?
Well, anytime I'm working with someone, I tell them when I'm working with them, there's 3 things that you need to do to change. You need to get rid of negative emotions. You need to take actions. And then you also need to be very, very careful once you know this information, what suggestions and everything that you're taking in and who you're giving your energy to and all these things. So you need to give your mind repetition of all the good habits. So if one of those good habits for you is learning and reading, I mean, do it. Yes, you can just take action. I personally like to read and write books. So for me, it's fun because I think every book like comes to you at a certain point in life and you're like, wow, this is why I need to think like this now. So there's multiple things involved. Taking action is just if you're taking action, but if you don't really believe in what you're doing, or you have negative emotions still, you're just going to keep butting your head on the top of that box and you're going to just end up getting frustrated. You took action, but it's going to be much slower to get what you want. So I think you need to take the right actions and put the right amount of effort in the right places. Action is great. However, take the right ones. It's like just in business, for example, all the people listening, like you need to do things that produce income or you're the best at. If you're not the best at something, then you hire people on your team to do those things that you're not best at. You can't just randomly take action. You need to make sure you're doing the right ones, I think is a key there too.
Yeah, I think one of the frustrating things with the people who are just like, take action, you don't have to read a book, you don't have to do anything. These are people that have high belief about what they're doing. So like obviously taking action is the cure all because they already believe. But if you have somebody who doesn't believe back to the worthiness or their value or they can actually overcome, it's much harder for that action to be meaningful and fruitful. And so I'm glad that you clarified that because I do think that taking action does cure things, but you have to believe because if you don't believe, you'll be the person just bumping up against the ceiling. Now, talk to me about the hypnosis process. A person wants to do this because when I think about hypnosis, I always think about a comedy routine, right? You're laughing because you know what I'm talking about. You go to a comedy routine, a hypnosis comes out, they put you under a trance. And then every time they say the word duck, you jump on one leg. And that's what I think about when I think about hypnosis. But talk to us about the profession and how this process works when it comes to this training.
Yeah. So if I'm working with a client, we need to have a good understanding of how they do the problem. A lot of people, they want to talk about what their problem is. That's great. The thing is most people, they have very similar problems. People are anxious. People have stress. People have bad habits. I want to specifically know, like, how do they do this problem in their head? And we need to know the details because the way they're doing it in their head is not allowing them to like exit the loop. It's like being on the freeway and never getting off at the exit. They just keep going and going and going, and they can't stop. So if we can find out how they do it and set up a new strategy, we basically call it a strategy that can then be a new set of steps to get them to what they actually want. So the first thing we need to do is understand how they do the problem in their head. And then usually I work with them to get rid of all the beliefs that aren't serving them, the negative emotions, all of these things. And then we, if there's any other cleanup needed, we'll do, however many hypnosis it takes. Yes, you can make changes very fast. However, it's very important to also, there's many benefits of hypnosis. I do it myself to, at this point, if I have a problem, I will use it. Yes. However, I use it many times to get better sleep, feel good, communicate with people better. So it can also help with all of these things. But the first step is to, we talk, I ask questions, I figure out how they do the problem, what's involved, are there other people involved that are causing this, what's going on? And then we work to get rid of all the stuff that they don't need and then move on to, hey, what is it that they want? What can they actually achieve now that this problem is gone?
When you say that you want to know how they do the problem, what does that mean exactly?
That's a really good question. I guess I probably should have expanded. So a lot of people, let's say that we're all I'm going to go to the store and buy something. Now, if I'm going to go to the store and buy something, chances are I'm going to see it first. Then I'm going to check some sort of criteria, like what's the price, what's, the color of let's say I'm buying a nice shirt or suit or something. What's the color? What's the materials? All these. And then I'm going to probably want to feel it and do something kinesthetic, as we say. So when we're talking about how they do the problem, we're looking at like what do they hear? What do they see? What do they feel? What are they saying to themselves? And then we set up some new steps to put a new strategy in them that has maybe a different picture. So let's say someone wants to be motivated. Most people, or a lot of people, they're motivated away from something. So they're going away from poverty instead of towards money. Now, if we really want to motivate someone, we need to have a really good feeling of motivation and a really clear visual representation of what it's going to look like for them to actually want to achieve it. So that's what I mean by how. Like, is it a picture? Is it a sound? Because there's only 6 things we do in our head. We visualize, we hear, we feel, we taste, we smell, and we talk to ourselves. So we just need to use 3 or 4 of those, create some new steps, which we call a strategy that'll get us what we want consistently. That's the best part. Once we have the strategy, we can get predictable results. Why leave success up to chance? We can do it in a predictable way.
I love the word predictability. That's what I teach my clients. Like there's nothing that gives you more peace of mind than some level of predictability in your business. When you're talking about the 6 ways that your mind I guess works, and you the visualize and so forth. Let's suppose that I have a money mindset issue, and I believe money is hard to get. I believe, and when I think about money being hard to get, I think about or I feel the pain of working, and I feel the anxiety of having to do more, and the stress of never feeling like you're working enough. So there's things that I have said to myself in the past, like I only work at 70% of my capacity. Like I'm like beating myself up because I don't work. How do you change that mental picture in your mind? Like, do you start looking at people who are relaxing on the beach? Do you start, in the middle of the day, you just take off an hour and you force yourself to go to the gym instead of working? Like, how do you change that?
Well, as I was listening to you there was a few words that you said that stuck out. So you mentioned pain, you mentioned stress, you mentioned anxiety. So if I was working with someone and they had this problem with money and they were mentioning these words, I would probably work with them on these things as well. Because if we can get rid of those, then naturally the picture is going to change. Now, the beach, if someone's favorite place like is the beach, and if they could imagine that, and that would get them the money, fantastic. For other people, we all have our unconscious mind is very symbolic. So it's constantly giving us stories and metaphors and things to go with. So maybe for someone else, like they're scared of the water, they don't like the beach. So
Right.
we would never put them there, of course. So for every single person, it's going to be something different. However, I'm always like listening in between the lines, kind of how you explain there. And I'd be like, so they have a problem with money, but they also have anxiety, this, all these things, which essentially means they have some sort of underlying fear as well. Most people, when they get rid of fear, it can also let a bunch of anxiety go. So they're probably scared of something. A lot of problems are rooted in fear as well. So based off anxiety, I would suggest, fear. And then once you get rid of that fear, yeah, the pictures in your mind are not going to be run by fear anymore. They're going to be run by whatever words that person wants to put in there.
That's a powerful stuff. I'm telling you, I love this mindset stuff. I believe in it. And I believe that overcoming all these things in your mind is an absolute game changer in your life. And that's why I wanted to have you on. If anybody wanted to get in touch with you and maybe work with you to unlock some of these things, or to have a conversation, how would they get in touch with you?
So there's a couple ways. They could go to my website, athensnlp.com. So I live in Athens, Greece right now. So that's why it's athensnlp.com. They can also just shoot me an email, alex@athensnlp.com. And they can find me on Instagram at Alex Morgan Hypnosis. So that's probably the three easiest ways. And, either if someone likes to use Instagram, message me there. If you like to, send emails, then send me an email. If you like to, find information on a website, go to the website and we can set up a call to chat and see how I can help. That's what it's all about, helping people.
Absolutely. Well, thank you again. You've been listening to Alex Morgan, author and certified hypnosis trainer, who just guided us through the process of improving your mind, because that's going to unlock all the barriers, or I should say they're not barriers anymore. It's going to help us expand our goals, expand our territory, expand our boundaries so that we can achieve more. Alex, thanks again for being on the show. And you've been listening to the Guts and Glory Show.
You've been listening to the Guts and Glory Show. For more and to learn more about Luis, hit the website at luisscottjr.com. For consulting opportunities, hit 8figurefirm.com. That's the number 8figurefirm.com. We hope you've enjoyed the show. Make sure to like, rate, and review, and we'll see you next time on the Guts and Glory Show.